bit tired of the redundancy of the discussions that are happening with our team.
I thought you were gonna
So,
say the roster, but that too.
oh, yeah, and or the
I'm just
organization, you
teasing.
could say as a whole, to be honest.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, you watch the summer league team and you have some of the same pain that a lot of us have experienced watching the regular season team. I don't know. Did you watch the summer league games?
I didn't watch the full of the last one. I was kind of switching between a couple other games and a couple other, but I did watch enough of it. So I watched the first half. You tell me your thoughts first.
The first thoughts are just that the team isn't good. It's frustrating, but yeah, like you watch our team play, you watch other teams play, you see a pretty marked difference in terms of shot making. You see a pretty marked difference in terms of creating shots. It's not just that we don't hit our shots when we get them, it's that we don't make shots at a particularly high rate. If the ball isn't in Marquise Noel's hands, I'm not sure that the right decisions are going to be made consistently. And if the ball
Yep.
isn't leaving Noel or Grady's hands, I don't particularly feel great about it going in. Um, and if Moses Brown isn't on the court, I don't feel great about rebounds getting got. Like, and that's just like a basic thing, right? I'm only mentioning one or two guys in all these scenarios. So yeah, just there's I don't really understand what the vision is. I don't understand the upside with some of these guys. We have a few 25-year-olds on the team that I don't think warrant much more of an opportunity, but we kind of have to give them two more games at this point. So yeah, it's definitely lacking the luster that summer leagues had before. I remember being excited to watch Jonas Valanciunas in summer league. I remember being excited to watch Scotty Barnes, and these aren't even like earth-shattering prospects, but it was just at least enjoyable to watch a team take a court to play basketball. But that's definitely not the same anymore, and that's not an indictment against Grady, but I think it's an indictment against just um the history, the recent history that we've built in this organization, and kind of just in a small way, it's feeling like it's going to continue.
That's fair. I think so. Here's my thoughts. The other team clearly scouted for Noel, so that was clear. Because
Yeah,
they really hedged up and blitzed him a lot, and I think he's still trying to learn how to operate pick and roll when he's being blitzed and under that type of pressure. I think this is why I was saying, like, hold on, people. He may not be ready for big time yet. I mean, there
yeah,
is a pathway for him to get minutes, but let's pump the brakes on it first because there's still a lot for these guys to learn. I mean,
yeah,
it's like summer league is one thing. Um, but then there's like the actual league, right? Like this is kind of like a litmus test. And I'm not saying that he's not gonna have any sort of shot. I'm not trying to diss him or anything like that. But yeah, the other thing that I'll say is, can you imagine how much worse this would look without him?
oh, it'd be bad. It'd be bad. It would be a lot like it would be kind of like last year. Although last year we had Jeff Dowden, but when he wasn't on the court, and Delano Banton wasn't making shots, it was a similar kind of a mess. But then also you could say, hey, common theme amongst the Raptors all of last season. And I'm not too up to date with the 905, but I think you've mentioned lack of like the trend of not having good point guard play extended to the 905. I believe you mentioned that at some point. Or
Yeah, there. I did. The other thing too is that, and maybe this has to do with coaching, right? Like they
yeah,
got a coach last year, I believe it was last year for Eric Corey, who had no coaching experience before.
yep,
He was a PhD
yep.
guy. I'm not trying to diss the dude, but he had no coaching experience. And maybe he can grow into that. But when you go from Patrick Mutombo to someone with no experience, and then I would assume that or wait, is he the coach? Yeah, he's the coach.
Yeah, he is.
I can't remember who's the GM of the 905 specifically anymore. I've lost track. But my point is that I'm wondering how they're selecting these guys and how they're planning on retaining these guys. Like you said, there's guys on the. I mean, we selected guys on the summer league team that I'm like haven't we seen enough of this guy? And then yet there's other guys where we got them and I haven't seen them at all. There's guys that didn't
Yeah.
play last game. Like this is summer league. This isn't. We're not trying to win anything really. Like
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's summer league. What are we doing?
Mhm. I I don't
So
I don't
yeah,
understand why David Johnson got minutes, frankly.
David Johnson was drafted at the same time as Banton. Okay, he is now
Yep.
coming off the bench in a summer league game.
Hmm.
I could just tell based on your reaction, you know, how down bad we are.
Oh, yeah. So there was a moment in the third quarter of the last summer league game where I think the Raptors were down like 18. And David Johnson just is none the wiser to a back cut. And it looks like his feet are, in concrete as a guy just like casually strolls by him. And it was really frustrating to watch because I haven't particularly seen anything from David Johnson on the ball. So I'd assume off the ball, he's trying his hardest. And like,
Do you know
there's
who's
really
hooping
no
right now?
who's hooping.
Do you want to know who's hooping right now? I believe Gabe Brown for the Suns. How does that feel?
Oh, wait, was he on the 905 at some point?
I mean, he was in our system at some point, right? Because he at least
Yeah.
made it at the very least to training camp. We didn't sign him. We didn't
Yeah.
do it. Like, this is my point. This is part of that development pipeline. And if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken, if I go right now, if I go to NBA.com, I'm fairly certain because someone just messaged me about it not that long ago that Gabe Brown is literally hooping for the Suns. Well, and it's like we couldn't
Yep.
have given him a two-way.
I think he got a 10-day and that was it. I have to refresh my memory.
We didn't
But
sign him last year. You want to know why? Because we had Bo Cruz.
ah, we had an actor. We had an actor. Got it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm looking him up right now. Gabe Brown.
4 for 6
Uh,
right now, 1 of 3, and plus minus of 10.
it says he was on the 905 last year. So that's where
Even
the
worse. Even worse.
yeah.
So he couldn't have gotten a shout.
Oh
Like
man.
I don't
Let
mean
me
to.
let me see his stats. Let me see his stats from the 905 last year. Well, he played 4 games, but that's still a stint. Like that's enough to know what you have there. And obviously having Gabe Brown isn't like for the people watching, having Gabe Brown isn't the difference between us being like a 3 seed and
No,
us being where we are. But the point is like an accumulation of getting the evaluation wrong over and over and over and over and over again puts you in the kind of position that we're in right now. So it's not like if next year we get the Gabe Brown thing right, that magically everything gets fixed. But if you can make the right evaluation when it comes to making these kind of decisions over and over and over again, you put yourself in better situations, right? You give yourself more options and you give yourself some wiggle room when it comes to like making mistakes. You can afford like everyone's inevitably gonna make mistakes, but when you tend to get things right, the mistakes are okay. When you tend to get things wrong and the mistakes compound, then the kind of like the mistakes that are just chalked up to bad luck, they come across as even worse. So um
you,
let's
you,
say we
you
we made the wrong choice with the rookies that we got into the team this year. Not to say that that's the case. There's nothing wrong
yes.
with that. But if it's off the back of just a bunch of mistakes over and over again, it makes the individual ones seem worse. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you another example, right? I believe Tarquavian Smith, he wanted to actually be here. He put it on his Instagram. I believe he signed unsigned, undrafted with the Sixers, right? If you've watched his summer league, like that dude can hoop. Again, I'm not trying to like and maybe you're more interested in talking about the Siakam rumors. I don't know, right? But I'm just like this to me is more interesting because I'm like there's like a why kind of a thing. Like
So hold on. I just want to know if it's me. If someone in the chat can let me know, is there some static coming from Kenyon's mic, or is that just me? Because it just.
1 second, let me just
All right,
try.
no problem. But yeah, with regards to what we're talking about now, to be honest, I don't mind talking about this at all. GS400 says yes, so there must have been it must have been not just on my end. But yeah, so the thing is like I did 2 watch-alongs for both the games that were played. Like I am fairly invested in what's going on, and I have
Is this better?
it. Oh yeah, it's good now. It's good now. But yeah, I have an investment in what's going on because, like I said, I've noticed a pattern of bad decisions and poor evaluations on players, and I'd like to be hopeful about things turning around. So I'm looking at these G League games, or sorry, these summer league games to get some type of inspiration, right? Some type of hey, things are going to be better. Things aren't, it's not going to be a continuation of what's happened. Oh, look at our new draft pick. Look at our new two-way player. Look at, our new coaching staff even. And just obviously summer league isn't like a grand showcase that, lets us know who everybody is and what their skill sets are. But it would just be nice to see something different, and then to watch those two games and for it to just feel like Raptors basketball all over again. It was like, well, this kind of sucks. Um, and yeah, it's just even the manner of how things work. Like in the first game, I remember things looked decent for about 5 minutes, and then Moses Brown left the court, a 7'2", like 240 center, left the court for a 6'8", 225 center. Um, and just we had no presence underneath the rim. And I was like, oh yeah, that's what it was like to not have a center on the court. I remember what that felt like. And here I am feeling it again in summer league. And then in the second game, it was just a matter of not making any shots whatsoever. And this came up during the watch along, but Marquise Noel is so good at creating for others that it makes the shooters look worse because he's creating wide open three after wide open three after wide open three for guys, and they're clanking them. If he's not creating these looks for people, maybe they get a pass. Maybe they kind of they don't get noticed as much. But that was not the case for a lot of our shooters. Um, Ron Harper Jr., Joe Wieskamp, a lot of these guys that we're familiar with because they've been in our system and they're the ones that are a part of our system and get the continual looks, they're missing their shots. Marquise Noel himself was missing shots, I believe, but that, like, for a guy who made his shots last game, it is what it is. I'm okay with it. But yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say for Marquise Noel, that's okay. Like I
Yeah,
think you could tell that his confidence got shaken with the shot stuff. Um, Now we've talked really negatively, and I'll just give like a couple counterpoints now. Um, what I've seen from Grady, and I'm fine with Marquise. It's just like he's just not ready
yeah,
for prime time. That's fine. What I've seen from Grady is really good. I think there's a couple times when he probably could have had 7 assists yesterday, or what was it, 2 days ago or whatever. It was
yeah,
yesterday, I think.
yeah.
It was just guys missing. Like he knows what to do with the ball. He has a nose for the ball. He repositions and relocates himself on the 3-point line pretty well. He attacks closeouts pretty well. His defense has been decent, right? Like he hasn't been getting blown by a whole ton. His
He hasn't
hands
been
are
taking fouls.
he hasn't been taking fouls. His hands are disruptive. You can tell when he shoots the ball and he misses, it doesn't shake his confidence, which is very
Yeah,
important. It's just right now he's not at a level where he can really he can self-create a little bit, like he can create his own shot a little bit, but
yeah,
like not, he's not Keontae George, right? Like he's
yeah.
just like, which
He's
is fine.
not. Yeah,
And they're two
which we
different,
knew.
yeah, they're different types of players, right? And
Yeah,
and that's not to say that you don't need a Grady on your team. Like I think he's going to be really better than what people say, but I just think also it's if you're going into a summer league with really one point guard, let's say, for better or for worse, these are the type of results that you'll see. It could be worse. Like the Charlotte, if you watch any of the Charlotte games, it's nasty. Like that's nasty basketball. That's not fun to watch. It's so disorganized. I will say I know it's too early to really come down too hard on a guy that just got drafted, but Nick
Brandon
Smith
Miller.
has not shown. Oh, no, it's Nick Smith.
Okay,
Nick
Nick Smith.
Smith
All right.
hasn't shown me anything different than what I thought. Like he
Yeah,
still settles a lot, and does not go into contact. Does not do the thing. If you disagree, let me know. Like I want to hear what
I haven't watched the Charlotte games whatsoever,
you
so
don't have to.
I'm unfamiliar. But yeah. So my thing with Charlotte is I heard some of the negative stuff. I heard some of it pointed towards Brandon Miller. I hadn't heard about the Nick Smith stuff yet, but I'm not surprised considering that their owner is on his way out. But he said, "Hey, on my way out, I'm gonna make the
I'm
draft
gonna do you a
decisions."
solid.
Yes, as the guy who's continually messed it up for a good 15 years or so, I'm gonna do it one last time. On my way out, I'm gonna do it one last time. So
Yeah,
I'm
I
not surprised
mean,
at all.
Brandon Miller, I think is fine. He's shown pop and stuff like that. I think it's he also, although he has said, it seems like every single person that comes out of like college these days says that they're a point guard.
Yeah,
Apparently,
yeah,
apparently.
yeah, yeah.
and he is no stranger to that. So to me, I think he's not a point guard. He does, he's another guy where it's like you need right now to have someone else create for them. And Nick Smith is just not a point guard either. We saw that throughout his college season. So, but yeah, I mean, there's positive things to look at with summer league. It's just disappointing. And my main thing is I'll always go back. Joe Wieskamp has not shown anything at all, and yet we had the money to keep Banton,
Yeah,
and Banton could be used on the summer league team for sure.
yeah. Yeah, it's frustrating. And to kind of comment on something you said about Grady, something I made a point to highlight during the watch alongs was something to keep in mind with Grady is that his skill set, it doesn't isn't about initiating his own offense. It's not about creating these crazy looks for himself, right? So in the summer league context where he's the best player on the court, and you kind of just tend to expect your best player is going to show up and create a bunch for himself and take a bunch of shots, high volume, high usage, and get buckets. It's not really what's going to happen with him. And even if it were to happen, in a way, what you gain from that is not particularly useful when thinking about what he's going to look like in the NBA, because that's not going to be his role in the NBA. So you kind of have to understand that he has to take a bit of a back seat to some of the guys on the team just by virtue of the fact that that's his role. And if he tries to press too hard, it'll probably look bad. And in the first game, there were moments where he was trying to press too hard. And it's not like he made a fool of himself or anything. Just adverse things would happen. He would try to dribble past somebody and he wouldn't make it, right? He'd get to the rim and get blocked. Or he would kind of lose his handle, or like stuff like that, right? Second game, he settled down a bit and he channeled his aggression a little bit more to his shooting as opposed to doing things that aren't really in his game. And he shot it, I feel like, every chance he felt like he could. And I wasn't upset with it. To talk about what you said in terms of him not losing his confidence, in the first game, he got a steal, and it was a 2-on-1, and he just pulled up from three, completely missed it. Got the ball back the next possession, hit a corner three. Had another instance in the second game where he missed a three. His teammate got the rebound, kicked it back out to him. He made the three. You like to see that your shooter just forgets about the last shot as soon as it's happened. So again, for what the role Grady's going to have in the NBA, he showed some encouraging things, right? It's just unfortunate that summer league is the kind of setting where if he's your best player on your team, he's not positioned to like flourish in a way that typically we look for great basketball talents to flourish. So I didn't look at that as a particularly bad thing. And all my negative things I had to say about the summer league team, none of it was about Grady. I'm even like happy with Marquise. And I mean, to be honest, I don't even particularly look at some of the other talents because it's not really their fault. A lot of these guys, if you I did a little snippet from one of our lives where I was talking about the summer league squad, and I was like, hey, don't know a lot about these guys. Why? Because if I look at their histories, they've been playing in Europe for the last 3 or 4 years, right? So these are guys that have already had to go to Europe because they got a look and it didn't pan out for them. And this is like their second chance. And there's some success stories when it comes to players like that. You do get your Patrick Beverleys and your PJ Tuckers, but even just listen to the names that I just said, right? Like the the chance the times where that works are very few and far between. And even when it does work, you're not talking about great players anyways. You're talking about these like fringe role players. So I kind of felt like this was going to happen, and then it did to the highest degree. Again, like I tentatively have the watch along scheduled for the next couple games, but I don't know if I'm gonna.
Well, you're not looking forward to it.
No. Oh, so here's the thing. In this
It's like a
game,
chore for you.
the chat. No, this last game, the chat got us through the second half. So this guy, Joe Wayne, are you familiar with the player in this picture?
It looks like is that Imani Bates or who
No,
is this?
that's Craig Porter Jr. So
Greg Borgia?
Craig
Oh,
Porter
yes, yes,
Jr.,
yes.
random player on the Cavs who I did not know before the game. He starts hooping, and actually Aiden on the stream was like, "Oh, Craig Porter Jr. I don't know who that guy is, but he seems pretty good." And then this guy shows up. He's like, "Hi guys, can I watch this game for free?" I said, "I don't think so." He's like, "Well, I grew up with Craig Porter Jr. and I'm trying to see how he's doing in this game. I don't know where to watch this game." I was like, "We'll just tune in and we'll keep you updated." So we he's our Terre Haute, Indiana correspondent. He knows Craig Porter Jr.'s mom. He's going to keep us tapped in with his career. If he ever pops off, if he ever joins the Raptors, he told us he'll secure us the Craig Porter Jr. interview. Well, these are the type of shenanigans we had to get through. You're muted, by the way. These are the type of
Yeah.
shenanigans we had to get through that game. Um,
Well, I was just saying, shout out to this guy, but also to Greg Porter Jr.
100%, 100%. Good people. Interview coming soon. Um, but yeah, this is what we needed to do to get through the games. The basketball wasn't it for sure, and just the David Johnson back cut happened, and I was spiritually broken. But um, we'll just have
Well,
to see. We'll just have to
I,
get through it. We'll have to see what happens in October.
yeah, I'll say one other thing, and then I know you really wanted to talk about the Siakam thing, so we could talk about that too. But um, I guess my point is this: Grady is kind of a ceiling raiser to me. So there's guys that are floor raisers, there's guys that are ceiling raisers. I think Grady is more of a ceiling raiser than a floor raiser. And again, when you're looking at a summer league team, right? Like it goes exactly to what we were talking about, right? Because it's like you need a guy like Noel to be able to raise the floor in terms of being able to at least run an offense. You
Right.
saw sometimes when Ron Harper Jr. Trying to bring the ball up, trying to initiate the offense, he's not a point guard.
Yep.
So that's what I mean by like he's not a floor raiser, he's a ceiling raiser. But
No,
right
that's
now
a really
on
good way
this
to put it.
squad,
That's a really good way to put it.
so yeah.
If you like this video, it's a clip from a longer live stream, which is the main way I do content at Toronto Hoop Talk. Live streams are an awesome way to keep people involved as I'm making the content. I love hearing from you guys as I'm speaking on issues. So if you like this video, make sure you check out the full live stream at Toronto Hoop Talk, and make sure you sub to the channel so that you see when I go live.